Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I haven't filmed a budget video in quite some time, but I was really excited to film this video because one, you love budget videos, and two, I think videos that have more of like a what I spend in a month, what I spend on a trip, what I spend in a week are more interesting, honestly. I do my budget videos so that I can hold myself accountable if I'm being honest, but I never share the exact number of how much I spend in a month because I just feel like that's really personal and I don't want to be judged for it. And I also just don't want to be like insensitive. Like even if people are curious, I just feel like constantly being like, look how much money I spend, it can be perceived the wrong way, or it can make people just be like, wow, how is she spending so much money? So I never want to fully do those like what I spend in a month every single month, but on something like this where I took a trip and I think it's actually really helpful and honestly just entertaining to hear how much money I spent on it, I'm gonna do it. So this video, if you can't tell by the title, is how much money I spent going to Australia. And I want to do this because I honestly had no clue how much I was going to spend. I thought that I was going to spend between $6,000 to $7,000 in total, which might sound ridiculous, and it's because it is ridiculous, but it's because the flight was so expensive that was like over half of what I thought I was going to spend the entire 2 weeks that I was there. So I'm gonna break it down for you, how much I spent, what I spent it on, my thoughts, how you can do it cheaper, my tips and tricks and all of that stuff. But if you guys want to watch my Australia vlog and actually see what I was up to there, then I have a vlog. It was a girls trip. It was me and two of my best friends. We went to Australia for 2 whole weeks. We were there for 14 days and it was incredible. It was so much fun. It was such a good trip. And now I'm back in Miami and we're gonna break down the budget. Let's get into it. However, before we get into it, I will thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Squarespace. If you don't know what Squarespace is, it is the best way to build an online website. And you know, I'm a big believer in having an online presence and having something that you actually own, but that doesn't mean that it needs to be ugly, because Squarespace can make the most beautiful website for you without needing any developer. You don't need to know how to code. You don't even need to know how to design because they have the most beautiful templates already made for you. And you pretty much just drag, drop, customize, make it your own. You can make it as simple as possible or you can make it as complicated as you want because it's totally customizable and the choice is up to you. We have our Rella website on Squarespace and we upgraded it, guys. I've been telling you it's been coming for a while, but it's finally here and it's beautiful. So if you want to check it out, I definitely would. Please do. Let me know what you think. I think it does, like, Natasha did such a good job designing it. And again, no developers touch that website. So if you guys want 10% off your first purchase on Squarespace, then you can use my code Natalie Barbu at checkout, or you can go to squarespace.com/Natalie Barbu. Now, let's get into the budget, into the fun stuff. Let's go from the beginning. Like I said, I thought I was going to spend between $6,000 to $7,000 on this trip because the flight was over $3,000. I bought each flight individually because I used credit card points on almost all of them. So that is one of the biggest things I can say. I am not giving financial advice, so do not take it as financial advice. But if you don't have a credit card, I would highly consider it. One, not only to start building credit, because I think that's so important, but you get so many perks and so many benefits with a credit card. Like, I use my credit card for everything. Like, I never, ever, ever use my debit card. I can't even tell you the last time I touched my debit card. So I have 3 credit cards. I have the Chase Sapphire Chase Sapphire card. Yeah, the Chase Sapphire card. That one I would rank as number 1. If you are going to get any credit card, especially if you want travel perks, that's my number 1, is the Chase Sapphire. I love it because the points translate to like any airline. Like, it's not like you can only use it on American Airlines, you can only use it on Delta. You can buy a flight on any airline with Chase Sapphire points. And you can also do the same thing with any hotels, and they give you such great rewards. So if you're going to get a credit card for travel, I would recommend the Chase Sapphire. It's the best, and you can look into all of the fees and everything like that on your own. I'm not going to go into that, but I'm just telling you what I use. Second credit card that I prefer is the Citi American Airlines card. This is my business card, so this is where I put all of my business transactions on there, and I would recommend you having an airline that you fly with exclusively. I am executive platinum with American Airlines, and it is so nice because I get so many perks. I get to pick the best seat, I get to board early, I get upgraded to first class quite frequently, I get 2 free checked bags. I just have like so many perks with it that I personally love it. And then I get such great points to book with American Airlines. So if you have a specific airline, I definitely recommend getting a credit card with that airline if your main thing is just like buying flights with your credit card points. This credit card though, it's exclusively used for flights, and I fly very often. And then number 3, my third credit card that I would recommend, and it's the third one that I have, is the American Express Platinum card. This one is that like bougie, the big metal card that you like smack down on the table and everyone's like, whoa, you got the Amex Platinum. That's that card, but the points are really, really great with it too. I think when I signed up, I got like 100,000 points just right off the bat, which was great, but you can buy flights with it, but it's great for hotels. When I went to New York, I booked all of my hotels with this American Express card and got half of my stay just through points, which was really nice. And it's also great for like concerts, and their customer service is amazing, and like dining rewards are amazing. So just like day-to-day things, I think the American Express one is great for. And then I love having access to the Centurion Lounge at airports. Again, I'm a big flyer, so having access to the lounges is honestly like very nice for me. So I'm gonna have all of my referral links down below. You guys will get points if you sign up with my link and you get approved. But again, this is not financial advice, so do with that as you will. Anyways, that was way too long talking about credit cards, but now I wanted to say that that was the way that I was able to save money. The first flight that I bought was my flight to Cairns, Miami to LA, LA to Melbourne, Melbourne to Cairns. I spent $1,267 on that one-way ticket. I also paid $506 with points. So that flight would have actually been $1,700, but I was able to save $506 because I used up my points with that. I didn't have enough points to cover the entire trip, but I did have enough for $500, and I used it on that flight. And then all of the flights that I took within Australia, I actually used points. So my flight from Cairns to Sydney and Sydney to Melbourne were all paid for with points, so I actually didn't spend any of my own money. But if I did spend my money, that would have totaled $650 for those 2 tickets. So because I had points, I didn't have to spend it, but if not, I would have spent $650. And then my flight from Melbourne to Miami, I didn't have enough points to cover, and that one was $1,962. The flight to Australia was insane. Like most of the time, I feel like the flight should not be that expensive, and usually is not that expensive, but for some reason this year flights to Australia were crazy, and I spent like $3,200 just on the flight alone, which is why I had a guess that I would spend between $6,000 to $7,000 on the entire trip. And then the next thing that I thought would be most expensive, but actually turns out wasn't the most expensive, was the Airbnbs. So like I said, I did go with my 2 friends, so there were 3 of us that were splitting the Airbnbs, but they were surprisingly not as expensive as I thought. I think it's because we went to Australia in the winter, and that is just not their peak season. I'm sure these prices would have literally tripled if we went in the summertime. But because we went in the winter, our Airbnb in Cairns was the cheapest. That was $195 for me alone. Our Airbnb in Sydney was $436 for me, and our Airbnb in Melbourne was $262 for my portion. And so I personally spent $895 on the hotel / Airbnb, whatever you want to call it. And I actually thought that that was not bad, especially if you're comparing it to rent. So I was actually very surprised that the Airbnbs were not more expensive. But again, I think it's because we went in the winter. But yeah, we stayed at really nice Airbnbs too. I'm gonna have them linked down below. They were gorgeous. And the Melbourne one, for being so cheap, I like don't understand how it was that cheap, because we actually ended up staying the longest in Melbourne, was the nicest Airbnb. So I'm very confused by that, but also it was just like so nice. So yeah, it was a great deal. And of course, when you're traveling with friends, you know, one person gets something, the other person gets something, then you pay each other back, or you guys are like, okay, I'll get this, you get that. So these numbers are not 100% accurate when it comes to the exact number I spent in food, the exact number I spent in Uber, because we were kind of all paying for things and paying each other back in different ways. So I'm just gonna calculate the total number that I spent in Uber, so this is not split amongst the 3 of us, And the same goes for food. And then I'm gonna show you guys the miscellaneous, like what I paid to my friends, because I think it's all gonna even out. And I think it kind of is accurate, even though I didn't split this by 3, because everyone was kind of like paying for everyone, if that makes sense. The food in Australia and the Ubers in Australia were so much cheaper than here. Everything there was actually a lot cheaper than the United States, and especially Miami. Like when you compare Miami to any city in the United States, it's usually just way more expensive. But especially when you're comparing Australia, which the dollar is stronger there right now, everything is so cheap, at least for us visiting, which was a pleasant surprise. We ate out all of our meals, so we didn't cook anything. We would go to the grocery store and we like bought snacks and stuff like that, but we didn't actually cook anything. So pretty much on average, we had 3 meals a day out, spending money at restaurants, and also coffee. Australians love coffee, and their coffee is incredible. It is the best coffee I have ever had in my life. So I was going to take advantage of that. So we would go to coffee shops like 2 to 3 times a day. And the coffee there is very small. They don't have like ventis like we do here. Well, maybe Starbucks does there, but I didn't go to Starbucks there. I went to like the cool, cute little coffee shops that they have everywhere. And they're like this big. They're like 8-ounce little coffee cups. So I was like, if I have 3 of them, that's kind of like having just like a normal coffee in the US. So we would spend a lot of money on coffee, but the coffee there was very cheap. Like I would order an oat milk latte and it'd be like $4. And that's like unheard of here. Here I get an oat milk latte and I spend $7.50. Like it's crazy. So I was in my head, it was totally justified, and I did not care how much money I spent on coffee and food. But when I totaled it up, that actually ended up being my biggest expense minus the flight, which is pretty obvious. So for food, drinks, coffee, any restaurant, I spent a total of $1,196, but if you calculate that by 14 days, that's $85, and then if you do that by meal, that's $28. And so if you think about it, it's pretty, like, it's not bad considering that's including like coffee, drinks, groceries, like everything, just like all food. That's how much I spent. I mean, it's still ridiculous. Like that's how much that's like a very, very expensive month for food for me if I'm doing that in an entire month, and that was 2 weeks. But I never cooked once, and I literally ate whatever I wanted. Like I did not hold myself back. So if you're doing a trip like this, one, you don't need to go to nice restaurants. Like we did go to like cute fancy restaurants some nights. We had every single meal out. We didn't cook at all. So you can definitely make it cheaper by, one, not going out to eat, to drink that much coffee. 2, actually, you know, using your kitchen in your Airbnb and like going to the grocery store and buying ingredients with your friends. And 3, not going to like the nicest restaurants. Like you don't need to do that. I don't regret it. I'm glad we did it, but I'm just trying to help if you want to do this like a little cheaper. So yeah, I did spend a lot of money on food, but moving on, Ubers. So we actually did not take public transportation. I honestly think that Sydney and Melbourne were the only places we went to that did have public transportation, but the Ubers there were pretty inexpensive. So that's why we took Ubers pretty much everywhere, and it was just so much more convenient. And I know I'm usually the first person to be like, you need to take public transport. Like in New York City, for example, you will not catch me in an Uber unless it's like to and from the airport. Like I will take the subway all the time because it's just like so convenient. And usually in new cities, I do try to do that. Even in Miami, I've been taking the Metro Mover. I like it, guys. And the Metro Mover in Miami is free. So anyways, I included the Ubers that were to and from the Miami airport. We also left LA. So when we got to LAX on our layover, we did leave and we went to Manhattan Beach. So we got an Uber from there in LA as well. That was honestly the biggest chunk of our Ubers, were the ones to and from the airport here in LA, and then to and from the airport in Australia. Every other Uber was like $10, and then split amongst the 3 of us, that's like $3 each pretty much. So it was very inexpensive. I spent a total of $200 on Uber for 2 weeks, and I would say over $100 of that was in the United States, just from to and from the airports. So I really didn't spend that much money on Uber, and they were super inexpensive everywhere that we went. I did do some shopping in Australia. You definitely do not need to do shopping when you're there, but I really wanted to go to Australian stores and stores that I don't have here in the States, or at least in Miami. And so I did do a little bit of shopping, and I spent $437 on shopping there. Definitely was a little bit of a splurge, but from what I got, it was cheaper to buy it there than it was here. And I'm not even gonna use an excuse. I just wanted to go shopping. Anyways, moving on, activities. The only activity that I included in here, because the rest of them my friend had paid for, so everything was kind of like up in the air with that, with like paying me back for this, I'll pay you for this, you know, getting even, all of that. I don't know the exact number, but the activity that I paid for was our massages. If you are in Australia, there are massage studios everywhere. I would highly recommend going to one. We got a 2.5 hour massage for literally $120 US dollars. 2.5 hours. That's a 1 hour massage here in the United States. And it was a nice spa. It was in Melbourne. We got a full body massage, we got a facial, and then we got a foot massage. 2.5 hours, $120. It was so amazing. It was so relaxing. And we got it on the last day there because we just wanted to decompress. And I would do it again. And then the miscellaneous up in the air costs, I'm down $130 from paying my friends back. So based on what they paid me, what I paid them, the net total is me paying them $130. That probably went towards food, towards Ubers, towards activities, however you want to split it. That was the miscellaneous cost, but I feel like overall you kind of got a good idea of how much I spent. Let's total this all up because I'm not going to make you guys do math. The total for how much I spent in Australia was The total that I spent in Australia was $6,375. That I was right. It was between 6,000 and 7,000. I knew it. And then if you look at it without the flight and without Airbnb, so just like what I spent in Australia, just swiping my credit card, it was $2,250. So it was an expensive trip. You definitely don't need to spend that much. If we're going to divide this by the day, let's see, divided by 14. That means that I would have spent $160 in Australia, just swipe, swipe, swipe. And then if we're including the flights and the Airbnb, it's a total of $450 a day. So pretty expensive trip. This was not a cheap trip. It was very expensive. The flights were bought months ago, so like I got that out of my mind. I've done a budget video that included those flights in there. So if you guys want to watch that, you can look at my old budget videos, but out of sight, out of mind. I haven't thought about that $3,200 in a long time. But this was pretty expensive, but at least Australia was a lot cheaper. Like I feel like if I spent 2 weeks in Switzerland or something like that, this would literally double or quadruple because I've heard that it's like very expensive there. So, and I think also it just puts things into perspective. Like if Australians travel to the United States, it must be so much more expensive for them because the US is just so expensive compared to Australia. So anyways, that was how much I spent. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Again, this video was not meant to brag or to like be like, look how much money I spent. It's purely for just like informational. I don't even want to say educational because I didn't educate you on anything besides credit cards, which yeah, I'll have the links down there, but I guess just like entertainment and informational purposes. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see more budget videos, let me know. I'm gonna do another one this month that kind of goes over the past few months since I haven't done it in a while. But yeah, thank you for watching today's video and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.